Hello and welcome back to another episode of Imperfect Marketing. I'm your host, Kendra Corman, and today I am super excited to be joined by Chaya Glatt. She is a brand strategist, business name specialist, and copywriter who helps high-performing businesses transform into big league brands. She's the creator of the MAD brand strategy formula, MAD, all capital letters, international speaker and developer of Brand Authority, a training program for marketing creatives. She's passionate about creating larger than life brands that have a strong emotional bond with their audiences. She has little to no tolerance for creative nonsense and is a strong advocate for goal focused, data driven branding and marketing. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So the first thing is that I love in your bio is no tolerance for creative nonsense. I love that. I love that. You know, I was the Jeep advertising manager in another life, and it always felt like it was a struggle to get out of the creative nonsense and actually work with the messaging and the goals that we were trying to achieve sometimes.
Right. I think when people think of marketers, there's that stereotype of, sitting in a studio with a glass of wine and coming up with like out of the box ideas. And I think we've evolved from that. Like more businesses are getting educated that marketing is a science and like a cool, flashy ad is not the beginning and end of all marketing. But we still have a way to go. And even as ourselves, as creatives, sometimes we have to talk ourselves down from that place where I need to think of something cool. Like, why don't you just start with the goals that this business wants to achieve and figure out how to achieve them?
Right? Because sometimes a cool, flashy ad is the beginning of a great campaign. Sometimes it's not going to move the needle to what they want to achieve.
Right. Or everybody who likes that ad is sitting in one room in an agency and none of them are buying the product.
Yes. Oh, yes. I get that. So let me ask you, you say you're a brand strategist. Talk to me. What is that?
Okay. Oh, I could talk about this all day. So the brand strategist is the person who comes in and says, no, 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 no. You don't need a creative ad. Let's talk about what you actually want for this business, right? You have 20 clients. You want to go from 20 to 200. What's it going to take to get there? With a specific focus on the messaging. Like, what do we have to tell people in order to get them to want to buy this service? That's, in a nutshell, what a brand strategist does.
It's so important, again, to not ask for an ad, but to literally just ask for what it is you're trying to achieve and ask how you're going to get there.
Yes.
Because a lot of times it has nothing to do with an ad.
Right.
I would say 9 times out of 10 for me, has nothing to do with an ad.
It often might involve an ad, but if you jump straight to the ad step, you skip some really important pieces. And also, not every business is just looking for more clients, right? Sometimes I work with businesses that have a lot of clients in one sector and are now looking to break into a new vertical, right? So if we're going to just start writing ads, then how do we know that that's going to help them break into the new vertical? So it really is like, tell me what you want, and then let's figure out what it's going to take to achieve that.
Exactly. It has to start with goals. I think that that's something that a lot of people skip. And I don't know about you, so I'll start with people. So what are your goals? And they're like, my marketing goals. And I'm like, no, your business goals. Because if your marketing ones are different than that, we got bigger issues here that we got to talk about.
Right, right. And people are often surprised when they talk to brand strategists that they ask questions like that, like, what are your business goals? I focus on the copy, so my angle is always on messaging, but there are brand strategists who are designers as well. And when a client gets on a call with a designer, they expect we're going to talk about my favorite colors and what fonts I like, but the conversation should not be about your favorite colors. If you're having a conversation with a designer and it starts with your favorite colors, then that designer is going to be your order taker, and they're not going to be your strategic partner in helping you achieve your goals. You need to be able to say what your goals are and then have a plan from an intelligent partner to help you get there.
Oh, I love that. I think yes, there's a difference between strategists and order takers. If you want an order taker, there are a ton of them out there. But the people that can actually identify a strategy that can line you up to achieve your goals, I think are definitely in the minority, we'll say, when it comes to finding a partner to work with.
Right. You shouldn't be hiring somebody to tell you all the stuff that you already know. Right. And I've seen this with quote unquote strategists who will ask you a bunch of questions and then they'll just write out your answers in like a beautiful organized doc, which by the way, now ChatGPT can do too. ChatGPT can take your information and write it out in a really organized way. That's not strategy. Strategy is not like, asking you a bunch of questions and then spitting it all back at you. Strategy will usually incorporate information, not just from you and or your team and all the things that you think about, what makes you unique or why your product is high quality or why people need your service. All those things are important, and it's good that what's unique about your brand. But a real strategy will incorporate information that doesn't just come from you. It's also analyzing your competitors. It's also talking to, gasp, your customers. Because they actually matter more than you. At least what they think matters more than what you think. Because they're the ones who have to buy the stuff. So strategy
The words
needs to
that they
listen.
use, the words
Yes.
they use matter more than the words you like. I don't,
I
and
love that.
I think, you were talking about colors and it goes back to words too. One of the things, so I was talking to someone and they're like, well, that's not exactly what I do. And then they had this like convoluted description of what they do.
Right.
And I'm like, nobody calls it that.
I love that.
Nobody else in the world uses those words. And I'm like, you can't use those words because nobody's going to understand them.
Right.
Yeah, feel free. Networking event. Go ahead. Chat with people about it. Like, mention that that's what you do. But, for the most part, people aren't going to realize that that's what you do because that's not the words that they use for it.
Right. Although I have to sympathize with the people who do that, right? No blaming here, no shaming. It's really hard to boil down what you do into very, very simple, like third grade, 5-word sentence, whatever it is that you need to do, because it's never going to cover everything. Like, oh, but I didn't say about that. And I struggle with this too when I explain what a brand strategist does. I went for therapy for this. And it all came down to I help brands break into new markets. And I was like, but that's not all. Like, we didn't say all the research, like I struggle with this. I totally understand that people struggle. It's very hard to just accept that you can only say a little bit and just tell them what they need to hear right now. And if you play that well, they'll ask you another question and then you get to talk more. But if you don't play that well, you lost their attention. It's over.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be the end all be all. You have an opportunity to continue the conversation. A headline on something is just to get them to read more. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, and to stay on the page, whatever it is that you're looking for. I think that that's just so powerful. And, and I loved how you put emphasis on talking to your customers because, I mean, some people look at talking to their customers like it's torture.
Well, it can be.
That's true. It can be.
Keeping
for sure.
it real here.
Yes. But it's amazing how many people just don't want to pick up the phone and ask. They're like, oh, I'm going to send a survey. Oh, I'm going to send an email. And I'm like, no, you have to hear them talk about it in their own words because you need to use those words. And they edit if they're typing. Like they forget. They type in a different way than they talk a lot of times.
They're also
And
going to give you a minimum response in a survey. It's like, let me just get this thing over with. Yes, no, loved it, bad, good. When you're talking to somebody, they will talk. They will rant, they will gush, whatever it is. So much easier for them to do.
yeah, I'm a very passionate about calling customers to find out what they're looking for, why they hired. They didn't hire you because it was time. Like, there's a reason it was time, and you need to understand what that is. Nobody is going to go into a high profile engagement or a high cost engagement because, well, they sort of knew it needed to get done. I don't know anybody that does that, you know? And
Right?
so I think that is just so powerful. So thank you so much for mentioning that, because I feel like I talk about that all the time and I like it when other people say it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about trust, because I think people do business with others that they know, like, and trust. Everybody says that.
Right.
What are steps that people can do to build that trust?
So I think the biggest step really takes us back to those customer interviews, because what you want to have is a few really solid pieces of evidence. I like to call them evidence that what you do works, right? So whether you're a weight loss coach or a business coach or a bookkeeper, anything that you do, you want to be able to erase any skepticism about you. Like, she says she's great. She has a pretty website. Like, does she really do a good job? Right? Because that's what everybody's thinking. And they won't say that to you, but that's what they're thinking. And if you don't convince them, then they're gone. Right? You need to have evidence. It's almost like you're on trial with your prospective client and they are judging you. Do I believe the claims that she's making? Right? And, or he, sorry, we're both she, so that's what we're going with. But you need to have that evidence. And if you interview your customers, what you can do is turn those interviews into case studies, which are stories that tell just what a fantastic job you did. So instead of saying, I am an effective business coach, I will help you scale your business, you're now saying, I took this business in 3 months from 5 clients a month to 15 clients a month because of my coaching, right? So now you have a case study to show what you can do instead of just telling what you can do. And I think that in B2B spaces, that's really the biggest trust builder that you can have.
Well, and I think that one of the reminders is that whoever it is that you're interviewing with or having a conversation with, to see if you're the right fit for them, they hired 6 other people that either probably dropped the ball or didn't do what they say they were going to do, or, became an order taker when they were supposed to be a strategist type thing. And they've been burned a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that.
Right.
They weren't
Right.
burned by me. Yeah, I know, but they're a little gun shy right now.
And they're commitment phobic. They are worried about signing a contract with you, which is going to lock them in for $10,000 or more. And they have to pay that 50% deposit, and they want to minimize their risk, which is very reasonable. It's exactly what you or I would want to do.
Yeah,
So,
no, I think that
yeah,
that's really important, and I like the idea of evidence because, I mean, they talk about social proof. A client of mine got a call from the Better Business Bureau, and they're like, "You should sign up with the Better Business Bureau so people know." And I'm like, "Yeah, your target's not looking there, but they are looking at Facebook and Google reviews. So, let's talk about making sure that those are up to date and that you're asking for those in all the right places." Because that evidence, whether it's on your website or in the reviews or, in the ratings of whatever it is that you're working on, they're important.
right. Right. And I always encourage people to have multiple forms of evidence. So it's not just the testimonials, not just the case studies. You want to layer in as many forms of social proof as possible. So you have your media appearances, right? All those podcast gigs like we're doing right now. You've got your trusted by section with your client logos. If you have some impressive clients, like don't keep it a secret unless you signed an NDA. You want to have stats like how many clients you've worked with, how many projects you've done, how many square feet you've designed, whatever it is that's a stat in your industry. I've worked with clients where we put like a map of the world on the website with like pins in all the countries where she has clients. There's so many different ways that you can just evidence again and again. I'm the real deal. I am legit. I've done this before. I can do it for you. You don't need to lose sleep over the fact that you might be working with me. You can feel very confident going into this relationship.
Yep. I'm definitely going to do what I say I'm going to do. And I think that that's really important. So let's talk about business to business versus business to consumer.
Okay.
Business to consumer always seems to have more money and research to move that needle forward and do a little bit better of a job sometimes, I think, than business to business companies. What do you notice in the difference of best practices between the two?
So business to consumer gets to have like all the fun. They get to do the fun, creative ads, a lot of personality driven copy. Business to business is where those trust builders are really a big deal. Like they will make it or break it. So if you're going to make claims and not have anything to back it up, you're in big trouble in the business to business space. Your customers are spending a lot more, right? Like in B2C, if you're buying a bottle of Coke, nothing's going to happen if that goes like wrong. You don't like it, you'll dump it, right? If you're buying, a 10K package, you will be very unhappy if something goes wrong. So that's why in B2B, the trust is such a big deal. And it's not just the social proof, it's also, it comes back to also design, showing up professional, like having a website and branding that looks like it's from this year and not from a decade ago, because that just is such a bad look. People will assume that if your website looks like it's from a decade ago, you probably work like they worked a decade ago, which is a problem, right? So you want to make sure that you're showing up as a professional, using the right colors for your industry. There's a lot of thought and intention that goes into building a brand that looks credible, even in the first 5 seconds that someone encounters you.
Yeah, I mean, I run into people that, yeah, their online presence is, 1995. And it's like, okay, it's almost 2025. Um,
Right.
so we need to be moving in the other direction here. We need a
Uh-huh.
refresh,
Yes.
which is so important. Um, so let's talk. I love giving actionable tips and getting actionable tips for my listeners. So let's stay on the topic of the website. What are 3 things that we should check right now to make sure that we're establishing credibility, not losing prospects, and that people aren't going like, oh, she has a nice website and she says she does this good stuff?
Okay. I love that question. Okay. So 3 things. Okay. So go to your website. Maybe take someone along with you who's not you. It's very hard to do this on your own. Um, you want to do a quick competitive analysis all by yourself. So open your website and then open 3 competitors and see how you look compared to them, just in terms of like the smell of your website. Does it smell professional? Does it smell like something that your audience feels comfortable with? Or does it look too juvenile, too old fashioned, too confusing and cluttered? Okay. So that would be one thing. Just like give your website the smell test. Is this a place where my audience will want to hang out for another few more seconds and learn more about me or not? Then you want to make sure that somewhere either above the fold or right below the fold, you're already talking about how you solve a problem for your customer or client. So if you're talking about all the things that you do and all of your services, you got to change something. Talk about how you solve a problem. If you are a business coach, okay, before you start talking about coaching and the monthly meetings and blah, 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 what problem do you solve for me? Are you going to help me scale? Are you going to get rid of my team drama? Are you going to get rid of my client drama? What drama are you going to kill for me? Make sure that that's somewhere on the top, right? Either above the fold or directly below the fold. If not, then your chances are you're not connecting with your reader because they don't want a service. They want a solution to a problem that they have.
Yep.
And then
Nobody wants to buy your service
right.
or your product.
Right.
They
That
don't.
mindset shift alone is like, whoa, really?
Any
Yeah.
day now, my new website is going to be launching, and I am I'm going through it all, and I was like, I sent it over to my new virtual assistant. She's reading it, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't get this word. Yeah, I don't get that word. Yeah, but really, what's in it for me?" And I'm like, "You just earned like your weight in gold because." You are sometimes too close to it as the business owner to really understand and being able to look at it because I thought it was clear.
I know.
Clearly, I was a
I
little too
know.
creative.
We all love our
And
own work.
I know, I know, I do love my own work. And then it's like, okay, let's redo it. But I think it's so important, again, to talk about the problem you solve, the service or the benefit, the outcome that you provide to your audience, to the person that buys your service or product. I think that is just, if there's one thing you guys are taking away from this podcast that you're listening to right now, I think that is using the words of the person that you want to buy and telling them what you can do for them, not what you do for them, but can do for them, like how you can transform them, how you can give them the outcome or solve the problem that they've been struggling with, right? That's the real key to good marketing.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's so good. So good. So I love this conversation. I love talking about strategy and not necessarily being an order taker, being able to identify the two of them. Talking to your clients is so important. And then again, the words that you use are not about you, but are about them is so important. Before I let you go, though, there's a question that I ask everybody, and that is that this show is called Imperfect Marketing because, as you and I both know, marketing is anything but a perfect science. What has been your biggest marketing lesson learned?
Sure. So, first of all, I was really struggling with the name Imperfect Marketing because I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm like, what do you mean imperfect? It has to be perfect. um, so, my lesson would be that this process of making marketing that works, that resonates with your audience, is iterative and you're never done. It's never over. And that's a hard lesson when you're at a point in time where you just invested a lot of time or money into this process. Um, but I think that for a business to business, the typical time frame where you need to revisit your messaging is going to be anywhere from every 3 to 5 years. So if you just went through this process, you're like, we just redid our website. It wasn't really just if it was 3 or more years ago. And I'm looking at this myself right now. I put so much effort into my own website. I'm a brand strategist. It has to be good, right? And now here I am 3 to 4 years later, and I'm like, this is not even the tip of the iceberg of what I do. And it doesn't have case studies. And like my more recent work is not displayed. Just so, like I don't even want to send people there. But that is the reality. Marketing is not a one and done. It's really a lifestyle, you know? And we kind of have to just get used to that idea. We're going to do it again and again, and we're going to keep our focus on it. So, between the 3 years that we redo our website, We're gathering testimonials. We're talking to our customers so that when we have to like revamp our messaging, we're ready. It's not this terrible ordeal, hopefully, because we have all the data. We're ready to revamp. We know what our audience wants. We know what's changed and what we need to change. So that would be my lesson, that it ain't over. It ain't ever over.
It is never over. And it feels like, I swear, every time I turn around, I'm finding, oh, that link doesn't work anymore. Oh, I really don't want anybody going to that link. Or, and it's, I mean, and I'm managing like 12, 13 websites for clients also. Not the hosting and stuff. I just like the content, but still
Right.
it changes. And it changes more than every 3 to 5 years on average in certain sections and things like that, because people's problems change, their priorities change. I think that, yeah, I mean, it's hard to stay on top of all of the different pieces and to remember what it is that you need to do. My website is almost 3 years old, but for my KendraCorman.com business. And when I started the website, I didn't have any clients on that side of the business. I didn't actually have any products at the time or services. So it's very different as to what it's evolved in 2.5 years later. So
Woohoo,
I
go
think
you.
thank you. I'm excited. My H2H consulting piece, I'm like, I haven't updated that in like 3 to 5 years, but it's steady. And what I do is still steady and it still works, and that's okay. But it's very interesting in terms of, you really do need to think that it's iterative. It's never ending. And if you put something out there and then you don't like it, you can change it later. Like, it's not the end of the world. And I think, again, moving forward, progress over perfection is really what I preach all the time. And moving forward is key. And then again, like you're saying, revisit, because people are going to change, and what you do changes and evolves as other things evolve too. Thank you so much, Chaya. I really appreciate your time. I loved what you had to share. Everybody, go look at your website. For sure. Yeah, take a look and see what's going on. Is your messaging about you or about your customer? And if it's not about your customer, then maybe reach out to Chaya. I will have a link here for her. She's got some free trainings and resources that you can link to. And of course, if you want to connect with her, we'll have all of that in the show notes. If you learned something today, and I truly hope that you did, because I know that I got a lot out of this conversation, it would really help me out if you would rate and subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Imperfect Marketing. I will see you next time.